When I got home, my middle daughter was 4, my oldest was about 7.5. And as far as I know, they remembered me. I actually did not recognize my 4-year-old at the time. There was a little girl in front of my wife that was crying, and I was like, God, whose kid is crying on the floor there? I realized it was my daughter that was sitting there crying. I didn't even recognize her.
So when your spouse comes home from a deployment, the military tries to train everyone in what to expect, but you can't imagine what it's going to be like. I think that as a family and as a couple, Kevin and I probably coped with things fairly well, but it took at least, 18 months for him and I to really get on the same page.
My chaplain said that when you deploy, it is like having open heart surgery without anesthesia. It is so painful, it is so unnatural to leave your children. I remember on Easter Sunday, I called my daughter, and my daughter had shut her finger in the car door, and she was crying for her mommy. She wanted her mommy, but mommy wasn't there.
When a soldier deploys, when they're getting on that plane to go overseas, they look back at their family, their way of life, and they literally push the pause button on their life remote control. They push pause, they get on the plane, they go down range, and they take care of business. When they get home, they push play, and they expect that life will just pick up right where it left off. But what we know is that's not true. Life continues to happen both for the soldier downrange, but also the family and friends and life as they know it back home.
Minnesota has one of the largest National Guard populations in the country. We have a huge National Guard. Over 10,000 soldiers from Minnesota have been deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan since 2001. I think maybe even closer to 15,000. We have an incredibly strong National Guard, very supportive National Guard. And at the same time, we know from an emerging body of studies of the military that compared with active duty servicemen, who tend to be younger, who tend to live on bases, who tend to have military support not available to the reserve component, that, not surprisingly, National Guard servicemen and women are more at risk for things like post-traumatic stress disorder. So we submitted a grant application to the National Institutes of Health in response to a request for proposals, and were funded to develop what we understand to be the first parenting program specifically tailored to National Guard populations.
Meeting on a weekly basis really made us take a look at our family as a unit and really look at what's going on here. What are some of the issues that we really wouldn't have even recognized and worked on because they're just there and there's so many issues going on.
It is a bit of a commitment. It's a 14-week course, but like anything else, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And anybody that has kids has made a commitment for a minimum of 18 years. So really, what's 14 weeks to help get some additional skills?
Women veterans really do face some special issues when they deploy and when they return from deployment. They are really struggling with the family situation. When women come home from a deployment, they immediately step back in and start running. The kids are not going to wait for them to decompress. And women tend to be the primary caregiver. And they are caregivers, and they think about themselves last. And so they don't take the time to go to the Veterans Administration Hospital to get their benefits, to find out what support they need. Because of this, those challenges that they may have are really suppressed, and they're going to come out later. Children sacrifice when their parents deploy. They're missing their mom or their dad for an entire year, maybe more. And they're missing their mom and dad maybe 3 or 4 times throughout their lives. I spoke to one veteran not too long ago, and he had deployed 3 times. His child is now 10 years old. So over 3 years of this 10-year-old's life has been without dad. It's tough. And so we need to ensure that when the veterans come home, that they are able to cope with the feelings that they have, that they're able to cope with the guilt, the anger, the irritability, and they don't take those feelings out on their children.
As a veteran and as somebody who served in the military, I think this program is a wonderful opportunity for Minnesota veterans to learn something about themselves, about parenting, and about the deployment cycle.
It's universal in that everyone will benefit from this, from the spouse, the relationship between the couple, the relationship between the parents and the children, and even the relationship between the siblings.
From the research standpoint, our goal is to show with evidence that our program ADAPT is empirically sound and does offer benefits for military families in parenting after deployment. I'd love to say that we could make parenting easy, but the reality is parenting's not easy, regardless of what program you put in front of them. But it's my hope that with some extra tools that we can help parents decrease some of that parenting stress, particularly as it pertains to after deployments. I also hope that we build a program here that is sustained not only through Minnesota, but across the country, and to bring this program to all veterans who struggle with parenting after deployment. And I believe that is the ultimate goal for our project.